Hi, my name is Aishah-Nyeta Brown. I work with a company that talks about how to incorporate climate change into Hollywood's storylines, whether that's in movies or television. We work with different stakeholders in Hollywood, so directors, producers, studios. We also have something called the Library of Experts, where we also talk to and bring in experts in different intersections like psychology and climate change, science, like really hard science, and in writing, for example, because you need to be able to know how to talk to these different Hollywood players that we are constantly talking to. So we talk to doctors and activists and teachers, and it sort of brings together this really intersectional work that needs everybody's voice in it. So really we talk to everybody, but those are some of the key players. Some of the best advantages to come out of COVID, how workflow has changed in COVID, is that there's less pressure or shame around being remote. And my whole team, for example, is remote, and we live in different parts of the country. And I think that allows us to have the flexibility to get work done at our own pace and in our own time. We do meet in person at least once a year. And so there's really no downside to that, in my opinion. And we're constantly, having Zoom meetings and seeing each other face to face. So that's like the biggest takeaway from the change from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. Inclusion is a big, broad topic, and there's lots of ways that we can think about getting people involved and including different populations and groups of people. But from my perspective, working on the intersection of climate and art in Hollywood, is that we can fact check things, and we can have help the script with these statistics and this data and all of this information, and that can convince people to get involved. But those numbers aren't the thing that's going to push us into like changing. What's convincing, and why I love my job, what's convincing is the art of it all, is the storytelling. What is the story? What's the background of it all? And in stories, there can be wonderful magic that is grounded in reality, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or whatever the case may be. I think the magic of how you tell a story is intrinsically humanly valid, and getting people to gather and sit down and to listen and change. From like the beginning of time, you think of like cavemen drawing on walls or telling stories around fires. It's the same now, but that big fire is Hollywood. And so let's like sit down and listen to some stories and get it connected with climate a little bit more in fun ways. And I think that's really convincing. Social media is also a really great way to reach out to people, especially I would say millennial and younger generations. Social media is a way that we connect, but especially in the pandemic, it was a way of really being social without it feeling bizarre, because it had sort of already been around for a little bit of time. Social media, what I do with social media with a company that I work with is I try to pull out these stories, either of people that we've talked to, the experts on our board, listening to the stories of others and how to frame that, especially if they're in connection with our company already. I also love to talk about the stories that are going on in the world, not just like a news cycle, but somehow related to Hollywood in a way that can reach out to people, especially people who see a really gorgeous, well-designed graphic and click on it and then read more about it, and then they share it, and then somebody else shares it. So it's sort of that domino effect of, here's this information, it's beautiful, it's real, it's true, and then that is the draw, the story of the graphic, how it's designed, the information that's part of the post is the story and the draw that people want to share that story within, especially younger people. Things to keep in mind for better inclusion, whether it be globally or locally, is to foster welcoming spaces for everybody to be a part of, and not thinking along a plane of intersections, but instead thinking of it as a spherical, ever continuing journey of solidarity. And, solidarity is just a better understanding of others. And when we think about that in a scientific context, we should try to collectively include more people from different places remotely, if possible, because when we talk about becoming net zero and things of that nature, we have to remember that it's the whole world being impacted and not just our developed first world westernized society. When starting a new project, things that I would say are really important to keep in mind is, what is the core story of the project? What's the main topic? And what are the supporting narratives that contribute to this story? Think about how the story can be immersed into a global narrative. Because the more you think globally, it can be applied locally. Keep in mind that it is an unfinished story that you're starting, not just a project. It is a story that's yet to be told. You get to make it along the way. And so it's better to have different dimensions to a story rather than just one dimension to a story. That's what makes a good story, is different elements. So keep your minds open when starting a project. Keep your story strong by remembering the main topic and not being afraid to give it dimension with different inclusive methods.
Thank you very much.
Of course.